Saturday's first video for you is first news stories from Somaliland, where on Thursday opposition parties took to the streets. Several politicians were arrested. Then opposition parties issued a call for protest on Saturday. But Saturday's demonstrations have been cancelled. What is happening there? Second news story is about an Eritrean documentary on Eritrean refugee crisis, on human rights abuses in Eritrea. The documentary has won a prestigious George Foster Peabody Award. Name of the documentary is Escaping Eritrea. A third news story is from Tigray-Amhara border. Here, viewers, reportedly, in the past 48 hours, Tigray forces have taken control of two kebeles on Tigray-Amhara border in Raya. Without any fighting, without any bloodshed, what is happening there? Is there some sort of understanding being reached between Tigray and ENDF about redrawing the borders? Lastly, Voice of America journalists were given access to Humera 2 days ago. We know that Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, Lucy Casa, and several other journalists and bodies, in the past few weeks, they have reported about human rights abuses, ethnic cleansing of Tigrayans in Western Tigray. There were mass graves there, that evidence of genocide, massacre of Tigrayans was being destroyed there. Now, Voice of America journalists were given access to Humera, and they visited some places where allegedly atrocities were committed against Tigrayans. Voice of America journalists seem to be clearing government officials indirectly. Does it mean that Voice of America is covering up the massacres which were committed in Tigray? Or there were no massacres committed there and it was just a media campaign against Ethiopian government? We'll have a detailed look at Voice of America journalist visit of Humera town. We have a clip as well for you. Firstly, we're Somaliland, a self-declared, unrecognized country in the Horn of Africa, where on Thursday, two opposition parties, UCID and Wadani, took to the streets, and the two parties accused incumbent President Musibei Abdi of obstructing upcoming presidential election in November. On the 13th of November, presidential election will be held in Somaliland. Musibei Abdi is contesting for another term. Abdi Rahman of Wadani party is challenging him, and Wadani party and UCID, two parties claim that Musibei Abdi wants to secure extension. He is not sincere in holding next presidential election. That is why on Thursday we saw protests in Hargeisa, Somaliland's capital. Police used force. Several protesters, including members of Wadani party, leaders of Wadani party, were arrested. Some were beaten as well. So, government used force to stop political protest in Hargeisa on Thursday. Protests were held, some arrests were made as well. Then the two parties, UCID and Wadani, issued a call for more demonstrations on Saturday. So today, demonstrations were due to be held, but demonstrations have been postponed. Wadani and UCID both have released statements saying that Saturday's demonstrations have been postponed because of ongoing intermediate and secondary school examination, and secondly, due to request by some elders that mediation should be given a chance. So now talks will be held, which are already underway between opposition parties and Musibai Abdi's Kolme party. Now, what are the issues, what are the disputes between opposition and government? Musibai Abdi is in favor of registration of new political parties. He is calling for intra-party election before presidential election. But the two parties, opposition parties, they don't want registration of new political parties and intra-party elections before presidential election. These are two issues, some other issues as well. Let's see, let's hope that the issues will be resolved peacefully through dialogue. Somaliland takes pride in being a democracy in the Horn of Africa, but Thursday's incidents indicate that police used force against political protest, which was a right of opposition parties to protest, but this right was violated. It was denied, and opposition party members, they were arrested as well. Let's see, will dialogue, will mediation work or not? That remains to be seen. Second news story is from, it's about documentary on Eritrea. Name of the documentary is Escaping Eritrea. The documentary was aired last year and it was made by Frontline, which is an American TV program. The documentary is the story of an Eritrean whose name is Michael. He captured his entire journey in and on the way to Europe when he was fleeing Eritrea. He captured this entire journey. He had a camera, secret hidden camera. And this documentary is about the abuses, human rights abuses being committed in Eritrea, and the hardships which refugees go through when they flee Eritrea and they want to move to Europe or other countries. The documentary was aired by PBS in US and by Channel 4 in UK last year. Now, this documentary has won prestigious George Foster Peabody Award. The award honors the most interesting, enlightening and powerful stories in television, radio and online media. Documentary is available. You can see it on several websites. Documentary is a confirmation what Eritrean refugees go through, what Eritreans are going through in Eritrea as well. The situation is the same. The documentary is about events which happened in 2015, 2016, but almost no improvement in human rights situation in Eritrea. Escaping Eritrea, very interesting documentary. A third news story is from Tigray-Amhara border, Raya zone. Here, reportedly, Tigray forces have peacefully taken control of two kebeles. Was there some mutual understanding between the forces deployed in border areas that there was no fighting, no bloodshed? The incident happened in North Wollo zone, Gidan Woreda. Gidan Woreda is part of Amhara region, North Wollo zone. Here, reportedly, within the last 48 hours, Tigray forces have taken control of two kebeles, two small kebeles. And ENDF withdrew. It did not confront Tigray Defense Force. There is no fighting there. Amhara Fano militia has already been withdrawn from this front. A few weeks ago, we shared a clip from Raya, from Tigray-Amhara border, when Amhara Fano militia was told to withdraw. And now ENDF is in charge, like ENDF is in charge in Western Tigray as well. People say, Sajid, there is deployment of Amhara Special Force as well in Western Tigray. You say that ENDF is deployed there only. What I say is that ENDF is in charge there. Main decisions are being made by ENDF. ENDF has more presence. It has control and command of the entire area. And that's the case in Tigray-Amhara border area as well, close to Raya too. That is why you're seeing that some agreement has been reached, it seems. That is why ENDF withdrew from two kebeles. TDF took control of two kebeles. No fighting, no bloodshed. Overall, though some Amharic news sources are criticizing this move, but it shows that things are moving in the right direction, that issues are being resolved through dialogue, through negotiation, not by gun. Lastly, viewers, very important news stories about reporting done by Voice of America from Humera town, Western Tigray. We know that in the past few weeks, Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, they have shared several reports, especially one report about ethnic cleansing of Tigrayans, about mass graves in Western Tigray and detention centers in Western Tigray, Humera, Volkai, Sagade. Then Lucy Casa wrote a piece for the BBC, I think, and she also claimed that massacre of Tigrayans was committed in Western Tigray. Evidence was being destroyed there, and several burial sites were being dug up to destroy the evidence. Now, Voice of America journalists have been given access to Humera town. They visited some places mentioned in the report of Human Rights Watch and Amnesty International, where mass graves were there and where atrocities were committed, where Tigrayans were kept in detention, according to HRW, Amnesty International. Voice of America here seems to be backing Ethiopian government's position. It visited Guna farmhouse, warehouse. It visited Guna warehouse and a school where, according to Amnesty and HRW, Tigrayans were in detention, where atrocities were committed against Tigrayans. But Voice of America says that it's reported they did not find any evidence of any mass graves there or any detention of Tigrayans. At the same time, the journalists say that some Tigrayans talked to the reporters and they said that they were kept in detention. Overall, Voice of America journalists seem to be towing the line of Ethiopian government. They seem to be denying the atrocities claimed by HRW, Amnesty, and other pro-Tigray activists and writers. My question is, if Voice of America journalists can be given access to Humera, why is that Ethiopian government is not giving access to human rights bodies to visit Western Tigray? Some investigative body should be given access to Western Tigray. Some independent investigation body which can determine if there were any atrocities in Humera, Volkai, Sagade or not. Voice of America journalists seem to be covering up what was reported by Amnesty and HRW, I think. They were deliberately given access with an agenda to neutralize the reporting earlier shared by Amnesty and HRW. So the reporting seems to be meant to absolve Ethiopian government of the allegations leveled against them about ethnic cleansing committed against Tigrayans by government forces, Amhara regional forces in West Tigray. Watch this small clip shared by Voice of America journalists from Humera town. Thank you for watching.
VOA asked to see 7 sites in Humera where alleged abuses and atrocities occurred, but local officials gave limited and controlled access to only 2. The Guna warehouse, which was mentioned in the Human Rights Watch report, did not appear to have had any recent use. A school official at the site of an alleged mass grave reported by the BBC denied any such atrocity.